His mother followed me everywhere, sighed, watched me, tried to read my face. Oleg paced like a trapped animal. He took sedatives, he drank, he waited. And I had already prepared everything. I loudly announced that I was going to take a shower. I took my bathrobe. I deliberately slipped a phone into the pocket, along with a thick envelope. A nice, well-stuffed envelope, clearly visible, the kind of object that immediately catches the attention of people obsessed with money. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, let the water run, but I didn't undress. I sat on the edge of the bathtub with my old phone in my hand and started a recording. I waited. 5 minutes later, I heard a noise at the handle. Someone was trying to force the lock. No doubt, no hesitation. They were really trying to open it. Then there was a click and the door suddenly swung open. Galina Ivanovna was standing there, her eyes shining with excitement, almost mad with greed. Oleg was standing behind her. She immediately improvised. "Elena, my God, I thought something had happened to you. I was knocking and you weren't answering." Lie. She didn't have the expression of a worried woman. She had the look of a woman who has finally found where the loot is hidden. Then her gaze slid toward my bathrobe, toward the pocket, toward the envelope. She reached out her hand almost in spite of herself. "What is that?" I stood up, turned off the water, and in an icy voice, I told her the truth she didn't want to hear. She had just forced her way into a locked bathroom without permission and rummaged through my things. This time, it was no longer curiosity, it was a clear act, an intrusion, an attempted theft. She started screaming that she wanted to save me. So I took out the envelope. They both leaned in as if magnetized. I took my time and tore it up in front of them. It was empty. "There's nothing inside," I said. "Just like your intentions." Then I ordered them to go wait for me in the kitchen. When I came out, I was dressed, calm, my hair was done, and I had my suitcase in my hand. I had packed it in advance. They were sitting at the table, he pale, she red with anger, both hanging on my every word. "So?" Galina asked. "Where's the money?" I took out a printed sheet. I placed it in front of them. A real estate purchase contract dated December 29th. Buyer, my mother, with the 7 million. I had transferred the money in time, and my mother had secured the sum by purchasing a new apartment in her name. The silence that followed was magnificent. A heavy, crushing, unreal silence. Then the explosion. Galina stood up, screaming that I was a thief, an ungrateful wretch, a traitor, that the money belonged to the family, that they had already chosen a house, that Oleg had debts, that I had ruined everything. Oleg, for his part, looked like a man who had just had the ground ripped out from under his feet. He finally understood that I would give him nothing. Not a penny, not a chance, not one more second of my life. He raised his hand toward me in a desperate, furious gesture. I didn't even flinch. I simply told him that if he touched me, I would give the police the recording of the forced lock, the break-in, their attempt. His hand dropped, and whatever was left of his pride collapsed. He sat down, then he started to cry. Not out of remorse, but out of panic. What am I going to do? It was almost pathetic. I looked at him the way you look at a stranger. Work, sell your car, figure it out, but never again with my money. Galina threatened lawsuits, division of property, rights, and justice. I reminded her of a very simple thing: an inheritance is not marital property. That money belonged to me, and I had disposed of it freely, legally, before he could get his hands on it. Then came the most humiliating scene for them. Galina, in a fit of rage, screamed at me to leave her son's apartment. I almost smiled, because that apartment also belonged to me, since before the marriage. So this time, there was nothing left to discuss. I calmly announced that I was filing for divorce and that they had to leave immediately. They gathered their things in silence. Galina was throwing her clothes into her suitcase as if she wanted to tear the fabric apart. Oleg moved forward like a broken man. I stood in the doorway with a cup of hot coffee in my hands. I watched him leave my life without tears, without regrets. Before he left, I took a bag from the kitchen and handed it to them. They looked at me, suspicious. "What's this?" asked Oleg. The New Year's Eve salads, Olivier, herring. It's all there. Take them for the road and you can keep the containers. My mother-in-law snatched the bag from my hands and hurled one last curse at me, something between hatred, envy, and helplessness. I let her speak, then I said just one sentence. It's better to be alone with your dignity than badly surrounded for nothing. They left. I closed the door, the lock clicked shut, and in that small sharp sound there was more peace than in all my last years of marriage. I didn't cry. I simply felt light, as if those 7 million hadn't just changed my bank account, but had saved me just in time from real misery, living with people who smile at you while calculating how to rob you. I called my mother and told her, "They've left." She replied, "Good. Now change the locks." I laughed for the first time sincerely in days. Then I went to the window. Downstairs, in front of the building, Oleg and his mother were arguing on the sidewalk while waiting for a taxi. She was hitting him with her bag. He was protecting himself as best he could. Even from that distance, you could see they were already blaming each other. I watched them for a few seconds, then I closed the curtain. It was over. It wasn't the money that made me strong, it was the betrayal that woke me up. And that night, for the first time in a very long time, I was no longer a docile wife, nor a tolerant daughter-in-law, nor a woman who forgives everything just to keep the peace. I was simply a woman who had understood in time. And sometimes, understanding in time is worth far more than 7 million.